Hello everyone, my name's Tomas, and welcome back to the Big Little Works channel. Today we're returning to the Mantua Pacific series, and in this episode we're going to be exploring how I created a flywheel for my locomotive. In the first video, we discussed how I installed a CAN motor in the locomotive, and the result of that was a very smooth and strong running engine. But I felt that the locomotive wasn't really coasting as much as it should have been, and also that the startup and stop was a little bit too jerky for my liking. I wanted it to be much smoother, kind of like an Athearn Blue box. So the obvious solution was to install a flywheel. The only problem was flywheels for these don't really exist off the shelf, so if you want one, you pretty much have to make one. So with a bit of help from my university's machine shop, I was able to create this on the lathe. This is a flywheel made out of steel, and it worked pretty well for a first attempt. That was totally winged, meaning that I didn't even plan it out or draw it or anything. However, I felt that it was small and that it could have been bigger, and that the coasting effects weren't really that pronounced. So this essentially was the first attempt. For my second attempt, I looked to these large pieces of brass stock that I had laying around. I felt that I could definitely use these since brass is a denser material than steel, and also it's just a larger piece of metal, so I can create a larger piece. So I decided this time I'm going to plan it out from the start. So I drew it out in CAD, and I went through a couple iterations based on measurements from the Mantua chassis until I arrived at this iteration, which you can see on screen now. The design is pretty straightforward. There is a tapered end on one side that is meant to accommodate clearances for the motor mount that I designed. And then on the other end, there is a larger hole, larger than the shaft, that is meant to accommodate the rubber tubing that this locomotive uses. So in a way, it's kind of similar to the flywheels you'd find on an Athearn Blue box engine. Again, with help from my university's machine shop, I was able to fabricate this piece, and it was pretty straightforward. The only challenging part was achieving the angle of the taper on one end. But besides that, it came together really nicely. And it was also a perfect fit, meaning my measurements were correct. And as you can see, it works great. The locomotive now starts and stops very smoothly. Its coasting abilities are excellent, and just the visual sight of the flywheel going around and around is very, very satisfying. And it makes me pretty proud that I was able to create this on only my second attempt. What's even better is once I put the shell back on, all of these effects were amplified. Another feature that I implemented was a set screw to hold the flywheel firmly against the motor shaft. Friction was already holding it on pretty well, but I wanted the ability to take it off whenever I wanted to, but also to keep it absolutely secure. So by drilling and tapping a hole and then putting a screw in, I now have that option. Overall, this process was a pretty resounding success, and I'm very happy with how this project is turning out. For the next part, I'm going to be focusing on replacing the leading and trailing wheels on this locomotive. And in the meantime, thank you for watching. I'm Tomas with the Big Little Works channel, signing off.